everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and today very excited to be kicking off top 10 lists here on the channel for the end of the year. Things have already started as of last week or a couple weeks ago with the annual survey, and that has already been punched out into the wild to get your feedback on the best games from 2023, the most thematic games of 2023, the games that you played the most from 2022 all the way till now, and the games that came out in 2022 that actually missed the mark for you. This is going to be really interesting. If you want to find this survey, it is in the link below in the pinned comment video description. Also, I'll put a link in the top right hand corner so you can check out a video that I did specifically for that survey. That survey will be running throughout the entirety of December, and we'll wrap it up near the tail end of December. Now, there is something else I want to mention, and that's the fact that this list is going to be very interesting in that I'm dividing it into two sections. So as you can see for the title of this video, this one's going to be about the top 10 crowdfunding games from 2023, but we're going to break this into two sections. We're going to have 10 games and 10 games. The very first 10 games are going to be honorable mentions. These will be ones that have already released on crowdfunding in the past. So in other words, maybe it's on its second printing, third printing. So in other words, these crowdfunding campaigns already have a base game from them released out into the wild, and they're either reprinting or they're reprinting with additional new content included. That's going to be all the honorable mentions. There'll be 10 of those. So those are going to likely be games that I'm also a big fan of and have already, and now more is coming for them. And then the actual core 10 crowdfunding games from 2023, instead of them being muddled with all those projects, they're actually going to be just new projects that have not released the core game out into the wild to date. So that will really make this a fine-tuned list and more informative for you guys. So without further ado, let's start with those original 10 ones on the reprint side of the equation. Now, it's worth mentioning for these honorable mentions that they're all in alphabetical order. So we're starting here with Aeon Trespass Odyssey, the second printing, plus all new content. As most people are aware of, they are adding more cycles, which are more large-scale boxes to what was already the original experience. This was extremely successful the first time around, and of course, a lot of feedback came back in from the original one, which a lot of people in the solo community really enjoyed, myself included. If you want to find videos on this one, I've got it covered on the channel, so you can definitely dig in, find out what more Aeon Trespass has for you, but there's more cycles coming in the future, and this is one that's certainly on my radar and probably should be on yours as well if you're looking for a large-scale campaign game. The second honorable mention is one which I've covered on the channel before, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice. I have a full series on this one if you want to see this game in action, but this is for the Apocalypse expansion, of course, reprinting all the original stuff as well. This one landed on Kickstarter, but is now on the Pledge Manager inside of GameFound. So just be aware, some of these projects will straddle both of the crowdfunding platforms. You might find the game in its original crowdfunding state on Kickstarter, but then the Pledge Manager might be on GameFound, or potentially everything is on GameFound. So you have a little bit of a split there. So always be aware of that. The next honorable mention is Dice Throne X-Men. This is really exciting because it brings Missions, which is a solo and cooperative expansion, into the mix for the superhero side of the equation, focusing again on X-Men, but Dice Throne Marvel has been released prior, and of course you'll be able to use those characters in this game as well. You can also technically use the fantasy-based characters in this as well. A lot of people have been using even Dice Throne Marvel inside of Dice Throne Adventures, which was a previously released expansion for solo and co-op. So it's nice to see them still supporting the solo co-op angle for all these Dice Throne releases, giving more life to the game. I'm a big fan. The next honorable mention is a favorite in the solo community. This is Dungeon Degenerates, coming back with its 5th printing and more content being added in. This is one I actually haven't tabled on the channel just yet, but it absolutely is in my list of to-do games. And this is one you should definitely keep an eye on, as it has a fantastic system allowing you to expand it beyond the core game quite a bit in terms of the crazy things that can happen inside this world. It's very uniquely designed, very colorful, and very cool. Next up on the honorable mentions list is Final Girl Season 3. This is one I've covered on the channel multiple times throughout the seasons as they've released. Really enjoyed this one as it's a solo-only game, and it's a fantastic one of the best horror ones you can get out there easily. Definitely worth checking out. It's back right now, but it is worth mentioning that even though it launched on Kickstarter, the Pledge Manager is on GameFound. The next honorable mention in alphabetical order is the Gloomhaven Grand Festival campaign, which has not only a second edition for Gloomhaven, but additional solo games coming out as well in smaller form factors. Really excited for what is coming through this particular campaign as things fine-tune for the Gloomhaven universe and things are added in as well. If you're a fan of the original games, and you'll know this by now, as there's the original Gloomhaven, there's Jaws of the Lion, there's Frosthaven, there's so many different iterations now into the universe that if you know you like these games, this is a campaign to keep an eye on. This one's on backer kit. The next honorable mention on the list is Shadows of Brimstone, Lost Tombs, and the Hell Train. Worth mentioning, what you're seeing in this video is prototype. The final versions of the components look much, much better. This is a personal favorite of mine, and the game has come such a long way from the original core boxes that were originally released with miniatures that were difficult to put together. Things have exponentially become extremely better, and the system and universe is massive and vast, and you can add as many expansions in as you want or as little as you want with multiple points of entries with multiple core boxes. There is a ton to be found here for the solo player, and this is one definitely worth highlighting. I absolutely love Brimstone. The next honorable mention is the S.T.A.L.K.E.R second printing, and as with all the games on this list, I've got coverage for every single one of them. If you search any of the game titles that you're seeing through these lists, you're going to find coverage here on the channel to help you make an informed decision on them. The S.T.A.L.K.E.R coming back for a second printing with fixes in the base game as well as enhancements. Plus, there's going to be more content coming. The Foreteller app is absolutely insane with this one, and the idea behind it is that they're going to expand beyond this in the future, which is exciting to hear. My next honorable mention is The Witcher Path of Destiny from Go On Board. If you're familiar with the old world already released, this is a reprint for all of that content as well as the new Path of Destiny expansion included. The way this game works is it operates with a number of different kind of modular things you can add in and out for the solo player. That's actually really, really good because you can kind of bring in the things you like, take out the things you want, and that can of course scale the time frame to play the game as well or add different mechanisms into your experience. Really excited for this one. I have not covered it on the channel though, but I do have it. I plan to cover it in the future. And my final honorable mention goes to Townsfolk Tussle, Foul Neighbors, and Odd Jobs. I really enjoyed the original Townsfolk Tussle. I actually did full coverage on the channel for you guys, and seeing this thing come back with a reprint and additional content makes me happy as I had a lot of fun. The quirkiness, the look and vibe of this game is just a blast. We now transition out of the honorable mentions and into the core list for the top 10 crowdfunding games from 2023, which are new base game iterations onwards. So these are going to be the new exciting projects. We've got Creel Manor, Citadel of Horrors, the dungeon crawl card game. If you're familiar with the Gloom of Kilforth universe, it ties into this. Also, if you're familiar with Veil Wrath, which is another great solo game on my previous list in the past, again, it's going to have that mixture of card play elements involved. I'm very excited to check this one out in the future because Tristan Hall really does a fantastic job of focusing on the solo community, and his iterations of solo playable games have always been on my radar, this one especially. In the number 9 position for me is DC's. This one I recently covered on the channel, had a lot of fun with this one. This one again drawing from Marvel Zombies, which previously released, but its own setup and its own gameplay is very streamlined. They've taken out a lot of the things that were kind of, well, fiddly about prior entries of Zombicide and making things even more streamlined. You get to the meat of the game and just start playing that much faster. And then, of course, that gets you to the end game that much quicker. So if things go sideways, you can quickly reset up and play again. That's something I really, truly appreciate about this iteration, and the fact that that focus on DC is here. Those tie in real nice together for me, and this one sits at number 9. My number 8 belongs to Dream Escape. This one coming completely out of nowhere for me. I had no prior knowledge as to this one being launched. This one shocked me. As I looked into it, I was more and more and more intrigued by it. This follows a theme which I already enjoy, and the gameplay just looks really cool. It almost looks like an elevated version of Elder Sign. Now, it's not going to be like Elder Sign, but it has that kind of vibe on the table, primarily focusing on cards, and I just like the look and feel of it, so I'm really hoping the gameplay will hit off. This is one I wasn't able to cover on the channel, but I have my eyes on it for its final release. Number 7 on my list is the Hunters AD 1492. This one caught my attention when it was on GameFound, and I still got my eyes on it right now. This one for me belongs in the 7th position and just looks intriguing from a number of different gameplay aspects. It just also thematically looks really cool as well. I'm looking forward to diving into this one more in the future, and this should be on your radar as a solo player. Number 6 belongs to Stone Saga for me. This one was a ton of fun to cover in its prototype form. I'm a huge fan of survival board games, so long as they're good survival board games, and that's exactly what this one is. I had a lot of fun with it. I can see the potential in it, and what they're developing going forward is exciting. So keep your eyes on this one as a solo player. I believe this one is going to be a great survival board game experience. We've now reached top 5 territory, and this one certainly belongs here for me. This one going to crowdfunding unexpectedly, Spiritfire. This one shocked me. It actually jumped ahead of where I thought it was going to be and went to crowdfunding much earlier on Kickstarter, and it looks really, really cool. Now, I haven't seen a ton on the gameplay side of the equation, but having a living board game sounds really awesome, as I'm a huge fan of living card games. Of course, living card games resting with Fantasy Flight Games, and this resting with a completely different publisher. But I trust this publisher based on their prior experience with Unsettled to put out something that's going to be very immersive and fun to play for a solo player. In my number 4 spot on the list, Dragon Eclipse. This one comes from Awakened Realms. Covered this one on the channel as well, and really enjoyed the interesting mechanisms of this game and how it plays. The card play is a lot of fun, and I really like being able to change up my deck and use my creatures in different ways in each battle, plus each battle feeling very unique. And again, it's on a small scale, so it's not taking up the entirety of your table when you set this thing up. I really look at this one as being a nice quick hit game from Awakened Realms, and I cannot wait to dive more into the expansions and also the campaign element of this one. I'm just really excited and was very impressed. It caught me by surprise. Number 3 on my list for the year is Nemesis Retaliation, another absolute success from Awakened Realms. They're having a great year this year. I mean, look at the money rolling in for this one. Over 10 million on GameFound, which is pretty insane, and the numbers just keep on ticking up as time goes on. Now, the series of this one has the original Nemesis, Nemesis Lockdown, as well as Nemesis Retaliation. I have covered all the prior entries multiple times, plus covered Retaliation on the channel, so you can see all of them if you're looking at picking up the entire set, or if you're just interested in one of these iterations, I got you covered there. So either way, across this entire list that I'm releasing right now, I should hopefully have covered over 90 to 95% of these games, which will certainly help you make that choice. This is one, in my opinion, for me, deserves to be way up on the list. The only reason it's probably not in the 1 and 2 spot is because previous Nemesis iterations exist, and I've played the game before, so I'd say about 60 to 70% of what Nemesis Retaliation does is familiar from the previous games, but having that 30 to 40% or whatever that other difference in percentage is being different certainly feels like a unique iteration in and of itself. In the number 2 position on the list is yet again another Awakened Realms game. This is a crazy year for Awakened Realms in terms of me anyway. They have literally hit, for the first time ever, 3 games back to back in the upper tier of a list, which is pretty insane when you think about it. I mean, Dragon Eclipse, very vastly different than S.T.A.L.K.E.R. S.T.A.L.K.E.R. very vastly different than Nemesis. There's a lot of differences across all 3 of these, but you could easily pick up all 3 and be very happy in the completely different experiences you're going to have. For me, S.T.A.L.K.E.R., as a huge fan of the IP and the video game and the world itself, the universe, I was really looking for this prototype to move that game to the tabletop in a way that felt realistic, and I believe it did that extremely well. And I think the development cycle of this one is going to fine-tune it even better. So if you want to check out what happened with the prototype, I've got that coverage on the channel. I am very excited for the final iteration of this one. We have reached the very top of the list, and it belongs to the Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era for me, and this is from Chip Theory Games. Now, I was unable to get a prototype to cover on the channel, which is really unfortunate because this was so high up on my anticipated list, it wasn't even funny. As a massive fan and promoter of Too Many Bones from originally when it was released, when all the reviewers were saying, oh, it's not good, it's kind of janky, it's all over the place, all this kind of stuff, I was the one from the very beginning saying that Too Many Bones was literally a hit for the solo community. I had played it in depth and not just played a single character or two and then kind of just thrown out an opinion. I had actually gone in depth with the game with many videos to show just how much depth there was with Too Many Bones and how much fun you can have with it. So them moving what they learned from that to the Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era is very exciting for me. I can't wait to see what comes of this. The final version is going to be epic, and you probably shouldn't miss out. And that, my friends, is going to wrap up the top 10 crowdfunding games and projects from 2023. Had a ton of fun putting this list together, and if you haven't already gone ahead and filled out the survey, which is going to be running throughout the month of December, and I really hope that you fill it out, because the more entries that get into this, the better that the results and more accurate that the results are going to be. It'll be fun to go through these. There are those 4 major questions, 2 of them for 2023 specifically released games, and then 2 of them looking back at 2022. Cannot wait to see all your feedback in there. And again, if you want to find coverage for any of the games that are mentioned above, whether they be unboxings, full playthroughs, partial playthroughs, thoughts, all that stuff combined. It's in my videos section. You can simply search for the title of the video. You'll find information on it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope your holidays coming up here are restful and everyone gets the time to just basically focus on the family and just take it easy and recoup the batteries. But beyond that, you'll be seeing a lot of me as we get to the end of December. More videos to come, more top X lists to come. Cannot wait. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, keep on rolling solo.